And we're live. Good morning, everybody. You made it through the week. It is Friday. So congratulations and welcome. Super glad you're here. My name is Brian Armentrout. I am with the Food Leadership Group and with my good friend and esteemed colleague and auditor, Joe Laino with CFS Food Safety. How you doing, Joe?
Morning, Brian. How are you?
Good. I moved your title down a little bit. I think I demoted you. Last time you were on, I think you were
a little disappointed this time.
Yeah, I think you were like super senior vice president of auditing or something like that.
Bring it on.
So if you're new to the live chat, number one, like I just said, welcome. And you're probably wondering, what the hell is this all about? So what are we doing here? This is a live chat around topics for food safety, food manufacturing, food quality. And we get together every Friday and share information, because one of the things that is 100% true, and we'll talk about this a little bit more and how this is kind of a lot of different things that go on in our industry that need improvement, but sharing information around food safety is absolutely critical. You may work for a company, but you have a higher directive around food safety, right? We're all in this together, and what impacts one company with food safety impacts us all. So we need to share information. We need to get better. And one of the great things that's going on right now is conferences are starting up again and these type of things. So definitely get out there and meet your colleagues, go to the lunch table, sit down with somebody you don't know and say, hi, what do you do? And get that information and those connections going. So one of the things that we love to do here is we start the chat, and you'll see this as our regulars are coming in here, is tell us where you're at in the world, what's going on. So Xanda is in beautiful St. Lucia. So I think everybody on this call this morning is going to be jealous of that. Although I am in lovely Loveland, Colorado, which is by Fort Collins up by Colorado State University, where it's a little bit of a chilly night, Joe, but today it's going to be a gorgeous 75 degrees. How's things looking in the Carolinas for you?
Well, it's we get 3 seasons every day this time of year. So it is 75 degrees right now and feels like 92. So you can just cut your way through the humidity. But they're calling for some storms later today, which is not uncommon this time of year. But
yeah, that's true. So please, everybody. And so people have already begun this. So let us know where you're at in the world. This is always really fun. I'm absolutely amazed by the worldwide network through LinkedIn and these type of things that we're able to develop. So Tina, my good friend Tina, good to see you in Kentucky. Of course, Austin, who's amazing. India, Nilesh. So yeah, so pretty much the other side of the world from us. So thank you for joining us. Of course, Tim's always a person who joins us every week, and we appreciate that. So thank you. Frank, Centerview, Missouri. Not sure where Centerview is. I've done a little bit of traveling in Missouri, beautiful state. So thanks, Frank, for joining us. Kazi, you're somebody new here as well, so welcome. Appreciate that. Linda. So yes, Linda's saying Jackson. So my wife and I last weekend had a long weekend in Jackson, Wyoming. And if you've never been to the Grand Tetons, it's something you need to do in your life, right? It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's absolutely spectacular. So you need to get there. Kim in Vegas, hello, and David in Winchester, Virginia. Man, we got a great crew here all over the world. And of course, here my assistant Renee is in here as well. And one of the things that we put in here is a link to some additional resources and things of this nature that you can potentially use to help develop your food safety knowledge. And I put in earlier in the chat. You should be able to stream up to the top. If you can't see it, let me know. I'll throw it in there again. And a locals group. So it's a free group. There's a process where then I can send out emails to you to let you know about the latest recalls going on. What's up with Jif? By the way, the Jif recall has not gone international. There are recalls happening in other countries now because of this big peanut butter recall. So there's plenty of news on that. David's in Winchester, Virginia. Ryan in Janesville. That's where my sister-in-law lives. Wesley, Zimbabwe. Wow. Awesome. I would love to go to Africa. I haven't been to Africa. I've been to about 33, 34 countries around the world, but I have not been to Africa. So Zimbabwe's on the list. Maggie in California. Joseph in Raleigh. So somebody in your neck of the woods there. Yep. And thank you, Renee, for posting the locals link. Renee's awesome. I love that. So today is kind of a really interesting conversation, Joe, because this is something that you come across all the time in the auditing world. And this is something that is an interesting thing that I talk about quite a bit, in that in quality, in what we do in food safety, quality, these type of fields, is we are very technical people and we deal with technical information, right? We're always looking at flow charts and data and trend analysis and CPKs and you name it. And we think, and if you think this, you need to rethink it, that the data speaks for itself, right, Joe? I mean, it's something we've only heard our entire careers, right? Is the data tells the story.
Yeah.
No,
Numbers
it doesn't.
don't lie.
It's true for technical people, right? We can look at information and go, I see the trend, et cetera, et cetera. That's nice. But you need to be able to take that technical information and transfer it to people who are not technical.
Yeah. One of the things, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say one of the things that with everything that's in the news right now, and I think this GIF thing, this GIF situation has the potential to rival the number of recalls associated with the PCA scandal because of the just sheer amount of products that peanut butter is used in. Mm-hmm. The baby food situation. And there's a great phrase, and a really smart guy named Brian Armentrout coined this phrase, I believe. I think it's patented, actually, that nobody pays attention to quality until there's a problem.
Right.
All of a sudden now we're discovering that was the Jif situation preventable? Was the baby food formula situation preventable? Quality systems oftentimes take a back seat to food safety systems, people forgetting that they're interlinked, they're interrelated, and one has to depend on the other for success.
100%. One of the major challenges of what we do is if you're good at what you do in quality and food safety, nobody notices because things are just chugging along, right? Yeah. Products going out the door, customers are happy, FDA has wonderful audits. Joe comes in and gives you a great score on your GFSA audit. Life is good, right? And other people outside of what we do just assume that's how it happened. And what you did, Joe, just reminded me, I'm so anxious for this topic.
I forgot as well. My apologies.
Yeah, I skipped it, right? So please join us, everyone, for a ceremonial drink with us. I've got my coffee. What do you got today, Joe?
Oh, well, it's too early in the morning for moonshine just yet, but it's just ice water. That's all.
Nice. So please join us, everyone. Today's coffee tastes extra good for some reason. So Innocent in Honduras, hello to you. And Cheryl, of course, nice to see you, Cheryl. Good to have you here. So back on track, right? So if quality is doing well, nobody notices. And that's a huge problem. And I can guarantee, and I'm sure you would agree with this too, Joe, that there were people inside Jif that knew there was a problem. They would see the environmentals, right? Because this resonant strain had been in this facility for over a decade. It was on reports. It was in information. There was follow-up. There was corrective actions. It would come back. People knew, right? And this is a big risk for companies, right? Because part of this, and I've talked about this in the past, is the Park Doctrine, right? If you are in charge of a company, you are personally liable for the food safety of that product. You can't delegate that responsibility. Yeah. So if there are problems in there, you can be held liable, right? So ask Mr. Cruz, the former CEO of Bluebell Ice Cream, if that's true. Yeah. He's being prosecuted by the Department of Justice for that recall. Yeah. And here's the interesting thing. He's not being prosecuted for the recall. He's being prosecuted for what he said about the recall. He sent out emails. And that's one of the things FDA will do first if there's an investigation, a criminal investigation, is also subpoena your emails. He sent out emails that FDA looked at and said, whoa, because he was telling salespeople to pull product off the shelves and don't tell anybody what was going on. Oh, we'll just get some more product in there. Don't say anything about it. FDA looked at that and said, that's conspiracy and fraud.
Yep.
Right? So just a little sidebar on that.
Yeah. And I think to your point, Brian, about all of this ties into, that famous phrase, what is the cost of quality? And there is no cost to quality because how do you put it? If you're a Bluebell or a company X, and if your company is a $50 million, $100 million, $2 billion corporation, what's the cost of quality? $2 billion. Because it'll put your company out of business. And You
Absolutely.
look about some of the big profile companies that have gone under as a result of situations like this. Um, we all know about brand recognition, and we all know about uh, brand loyalty and customer loyalty, and it takes a great. I mean, look at Coke was a great example, and they didn't even have a food. This with the whole the new Coke thing. I mean, it didn't kill their brand, and people are very, very loyal to Coca-Cola products, right? But it was
Yeah.
a flop, and they learned a lesson from it,
Yep.
and they were able to recover from it. Other companies, I don't know, this we're in a wave of problems here in our industry, spanning over the past few years. There just seems to be more and more recalls than ever, and we can all sit around and discuss what's driving it. Certainly, accountability and the need to report these things now is probably leading the charge.
Mhm.
But we have to look at what are you mentioned about this strain of bacteria in their facility for 10 years, and I would have to think that somebody somewhere has read an EM lab report, and I'm sure somewhere there's been a trend analysis that's been conducted. And to ignore the information when it's in front of you is just,
Mhm.
it's criminal, And I
Yeah.
and I think back to when Chipotle had all their issues back 5, 6, 7 years ago. The CEO of Chipotle threw himself on the grenade and said, "We screwed up, and
Yeah.
this is the lesson that we've learned from it." And their sales are stronger than ever, and it's you have to have accountability for your mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're going to have problems in our food plants.
Mhm.
It's what do we do with the information? These quality reports. What are we doing with them? Are we just generating them because 2.1.2 of SQF says you have to do it? All
Yeah.
right, great. So here's my quality report. It's going to go in the drawer, and when the inspector comes, when the SQF auditor comes, here, look, we did it, and you're compliant. Well, we can all sit here and paper whip stuff. It's the value of the report. What are you doing with the information that the reports are providing you?
Yeah. Here's an interesting little blast from the past, right? So for companies going out of business, Snow Brand. Have you ever heard of that company?
Sure.
One of the biggest dairy companies in Japan. Used to be one of the biggest dairy companies. It was one of the biggest dairy companies in the world. And then they had a major recall. Turned out that they were recycling milk from the field and repasteurizing it. They were putting it in a tank, and staph toxin was developing. So gigantic scandal, right? So Japan, right? So there's an issue, and the chairman of the board comes out and says, no, our products are fine. Drinks a little bit of the milk, goes backstage, and promptly throws up. Right? Multi-billion-dollar company, gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So part of this, right, and what we're talking about, the underlying theme with this part of the presentation here is if you're managing quality at a plant level, corporate level, I don't care, you have an ethical responsibility to make sure that the leadership knows this information. Right?
Never mind the legal responsibility, but to your point, ethical and more. Where are your morals?
Right.
I like peanut butter. I love peanut butter. I
Yeah.
love peanut butter. Okay, and to eat it and think about, am I gonna get sick from eating this peanut? Austin raises two good points. One is
Mhm.
the email trail back and forth is basically what did in the Parnell brothers at PCA.
Yeah.
And during COVID, we were worried about surviving everything during the height of COVID in 2020.
Yeah.
Did we get lax in our training? We probably have companies that have a 50% new workforce compared to 2 or 3 years ago, as people came and went and left jobs and left the industry and retired at the height of COVID. Has our training slipped a little bit? That's allowing some of these things to happen. So
Mhm.
again, I think the reasons why these things are happening could be another hour discussion, if not longer. But we, to have the information in front of you and not react to it, I don't understand.
Right. And this kind of circles back to what we were talking about at the beginning, which is we are technical people, and we are taking technical information and sharing it with non-technical people. Right. When you look at the senior leadership of a company, right, it's generally the CEO came up through finance or marketing or sales, sometimes operations. But do you ever see the head of a company coming up from quality? Very rare, very, very rare, right? So they don't understand our language. And by just the very nature of what they do day in and day out, right? Part of what we do in our roles in quality and food safety is we're looking at the details, right? We're looking at the trends, we're trying to figure things out, right? And trying to tie this into a big picture. Their big picture, right? If you have a successful senior leadership team in your company, they're thinking about the company 3 to 5 years out, right? How are we going to grow? What customers are we going to go after? Do we have any acquisitions that we want to obtain? Do we want to go to a foreign country and start selling product? On and on and on, right? They're thinking about these things at that 30,000 foot level all the time. And if you expect them, try to get this right. If you expect them to go from 30,000 foot and look at your report and drop down to ground, ain't going to happen.
Not going to happen.
And if you send it in an email and you expect them to read it, ain't going to happen.
No.
Ain't going to happen.
I mean, I in my last role, I was on a hemispherical management level, North America. I'm a cog in the wheel, and I'm getting 500 emails a day. If you think I'm sitting around looking for Brian's quarterly quality report, I'm not looking for it. So, to your point, we can't send. Well, I sent an email. Okay, right. Good. I'm glad it works. Yeah. But we have to do a better job of interpreting the data, reporting the data, making sure the data is being communicated to the right people. And to your point, we don't promote up to the C level people from quality. It just doesn't happen in our industry. And I don't know why. I would love for it to be me someday, but I don't know why. Right. We're not the ones with the sales and marketing backgrounds, and I don't know the first thing about reading, interpreting sales data. That's just not my bag. Okay. But we also understand, and we have to not be naive to think that we don't make money for our companies in our roles. We just don't. I don't generate revenue. I don't generate sales. If I'm working, as a plant level QA or a director level QA, I'm not making money. If anything, what am I doing? I'm taking money away from. Nope, can't ship that. Oh, nope, that product doesn't meet spec. It's got to get thrown away. So, but I know I have to believe in my heart that I've experienced them, worked with them, audited them. There are companies out there that are forward thinking and understand that without product quality, without product safety, they'll be out of business. They could have the best sales program in the world.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how Jif recovers from all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. If they recover, right? It's choosy moms may be choosing something else. So Roxanna, I think I owe you $5 because you have set up perfectly the segue into our conversation today. So Roxanna says, what would be the best way to communicate to upper management? Okay, Brian and Joe, we hear you going blah, 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 right? All these problems. Great. How do I fix this? Excellent question. The quality report that you create within your company, right? So I'm talking about two levels here, right? Your corporate report, depending how big your company is, and your plant report is the tool you use to do this, right? And ideally, right, what you're doing at the plant level or the corporate level, and I ran quality at companies for 20 years, is you're sitting down with senior management and you're going through the report with them, right? So now imagine, right, just as a typical scenario, imagine if you're the vice president of quality at Jif, right? And now you're going through the quality report and you're sitting down with senior management and going through the information and interpreting it for them, right? Hey guys, here's the quality report. Here's how we're doing on our key performance indicators. Here's our complaint rates. Here is our compliance rates for GMPs, blah, blah, blah. Here are our environmental testing results. We have a serious problem. We need capital. What we have in this plant is a resident strain. We can't get it out. We got to dig up some floors. We got to fix some walls, whatever we need to do. We need $5 million to do this. If we don't do this, here's what's going to happen long-term. Right? They need that information and it needs to be presented in that way. And never ever, right? This is a rule for any manager, right? So write this one down. Never bring a problem to your boss without a solution. Right? So you need to go, and if you're sitting down with senior leadership on it and you're discussing environmental monitoring problems, Give them 2 or 3 options on how they can fix it and let them talk about it, right? Your job is to bring solutions, right? We all hate it, right? As managers and people, right? When someone comes to us and like a hot potato, they give you their problem and they walk away, right? It's just, oh boy, that's a pet peeve for me, right? It's like, I didn't do this.
Right.
You did this. You fix it, right? And in quality, we're oftentimes, Joe, we're more than happy to take those things on, right?
Yeah, I agree. And you know, to your point about, I'm sure everybody here has at some point, you know, been in charge of QA on at least the plant level. You know, for a supervisor to come to me and say, "Hey, Joe, this mouse is broken." I don't know how to fix a mouse. I'm going to say to you, well, how do you want to fix this? Don't bring me your problems. Okay, I've got enough problems of my own. I don't need you to bring me a solution. Hey, Joe, this mouse is broken, and this is how I want to fix it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And you know, show some leadership. Show the intestinal fortitude to be able to go on a ledge and say to your board of directors or to your C-level, I need $3 million to rip out floors and walls and whatever the case may be. You have to be bold, and oftentimes it's challenging.
Right, and that's what they're looking for from you. So back to Roxana's great question is, okay, great. So quality report. So I've learned some lessons over the years that I'm going to share with you guys today. So what makes a good quality report? Now, number one is it's going to vary by company, right? There's different things that your company is worried about that other companies aren't worried about. So you need to make sure you take those into account. So one of the things that makes a good quality report is, at a high level, right, it brings visibility to what's going on in the company, right? Just not the quality department, what's going on in the company.
Right.
What are the problems at the plant level? What are the problems in different areas? What are the problems in procurement, right? What are the complaint rates associated with that? All these types of things. The quality report is a fantastic tool to aggregate this information, because remember, if you're working in food quality and food safety in this type of field, we're in a unique position. We get to poke our nose into all kinds of crap, right? We're just not working we're not in procurement and buying stuff and these type of things, right? We're quality, right? We're talking with procurement, we're talking with legal, communications, marketing, sales, operations, R&D, you name it, right? We're in their business, right? And part of that, right, is because we're building systems. And part of that then is getting an understanding and making sure that they understand that you have an appreciation for what they do. So it needs to focus at the company level. It needs to be written, this is a hard one, right? Because we're technical people. It needs to be written at a low level of granularity and backup data. So what do I mean by that? So I used to present quality reports to senior leadership at companies, right? Multi-billion-dollar companies. And did it ever go the way I thought it was going to go? Heck no, never. It never went the way I thought, right? Senior leadership, they're people, right? They have their own problems. They have the things that they're thinking about, right? The CFO is worried about the financing for the next round of the expansion. The CEO has a big meeting come up with an angry customer, whatever else. They got all these things on their mind. And you go into that meeting and you have the high level report with the data behind it. And you say, okay, here's our KPIs for complaints per million pounds. And then all of a sudden the operations guy goes, whoa, hold on a minute. What happened at that plant? I don't remember that happening at that plant. And then you go to the data. Or you may get in the middle of a fight, right? Where the CFO and the operations vice president have an issue going on. Yep. And the CFO says, well, now I understand why we can't make any money. It's because you guys make bad product, right? And and then it goes that way. You need to go in those meetings with 2 or 3 objectives, generally not more than that. 2 or 3 objectives of what are those highlights in that report of what it is that you want to make sure those people on the senior leadership team understand.
Absolutely.
Right? Hey guys, like we're talking about is the example here. We have an environmental problem at one of our plants. Here's what we're doing about it. We're going to have some results. I'll have data back for you next month and we'll continue this discussion. Right now they're engaged. So that's an important thing. You need to understand, we'll talk a little bit more about this as well. You need to understand the difference between backwards looking and forwards looking information. What do I mean by that? So complaints are always backwards looking. And if the organization doesn't understand what the complaint rates are within your company, you're not doing a good job, right? And if you're going to the senior leadership and you're just rehashing old data from last month that they already know, you're wasting time. You're wasting time.
Agreed.
What you need to focus in is what are we doing about it, Right? Okay, here's our complaint rate. We're at 25 complaints per million versus last month. We're up to 30 this month. Here are the actions we put in place to bring that back down to normal. Part of this then too is you can get tied up in minutia. So for example, how do you calculate complaint rates? So you have in a plant production dates, best by dates, and these type of things, right? And they hit the markets at different times. Do you constantly go back and backdate to production date? My advice is no, because your report is going to be constantly in flux and it's going to confuse everybody, right? When the complaints come in, that's when they come in, right? Report them accordingly. Don't make your life more difficult. Use it as a tool for change, right? So what you need to do with this, and this is a little harder, and this needs to be done at senior leadership level, is the measurements that you're looking at need to be linked into as many departments that touch food safety and quality as you can, right? So what I mean by that, you have the quality group, the operations group, the R&D group, the procurement group, legal group. All of these different organizations impact quality. Those metrics need to be linked into their reviews and their bonuses. Right now, you're going to get people's attention.
And I was hoping you would bring that up, because unfortunately, money drives everything that we do. Okay, we work because we have bills to pay. The goal of every business is to make money. The best way to motivate people is with money. So, Cortland raises a good point about using ISO management review tool, which is going to bring us to the part about using GFSI, which we can say is an ISO tool. Use SQF, use BRC, FSSC. They all, in the very beginnings of the audit codes, the standards, all have information about management review and quality reporting and monthly recaps to management. And I think it's important that we use that tool to help ensure that we're getting the communication through. To your point about, don't send it as an email attachment. The average, executive level is not sitting around waiting for your email every day. They're dealing with bigger things. And, to your point about the CEO is worried about this, and the executive director, VP, is worried about that, and this global vice president's worried, and this division, don't forget they've also got personal things going on too.
Yeah,
that can be distracting them beyond work. We've all got stuff going on in our lives. If you can sit here and say to me, you have nothing going on in your life that's causing you stress, you're either gifted or a liar. So we're all human, and we've all got things. We're juggling 10 different things every hour, and priorities are constantly changing. So it's our job as quality and food safety nerds to figure out how to get that information across to them and have it be meaningful.
That's a fantastic point, because people like good news too, right? We don't always have to be Debbie Downer in quality, and here's all the problems we've got, and right. Celebrate the wins. So let's say you had a high complaint rate and you put an action plan in place, and you're able to go out and plan and do some root cause analysis with your team and figure something out. And now 2 months later, the complaints are going down. Make sure senior management knows that. It's like, man, my team did a fantastic job. The operations group, we did a great job finding this defect, and now we're reaping the benefits of that. Right? Senior leadership are going to appreciate that, because it makes it easier for the sales team to go out and sell things, right? Because if you're going into a large retailer or something like that, and that buyer is ticked off at the salesperson because of complaint rates, give them some good news, right? Hey guys, we're listening to you. We're doing what we're saying, right? And intuitively, we know this, right? As consumers, if we have a complaint about something and we file a complaint with a company and they don't respond, or they give us a canned answer, oh boy, right? We're ticked.
And we've talked in prior episodes about who is the best source of information on how your company is doing. It's your consumers. People love to complain. We all love to complain. And we get on that website and we send a snarky email. Your product was terrible. It tasted this. It looked like that. My wife and I had fast food the other night. I won't say the brand. And it's, one of the big burger chains. And I come home and her burger looked like it was slapped together, and there was no barbecue sauce. There was like 4 onion rings in the box. My French fry thing was half filled. Her chocolate shake was half filled.
Oh,
And, so if you think I didn't out, it's now fast food ain't cheap anymore. So if you don't think I went online and complained, you're wrong. Okay. So your consumers are the best source of information on how you're doing. So to
yeah,
your point, if you're running at 25 complaints per million units and now you're down to 20 complaints because you've implemented pass that information upstream.
yeah. Celebrate, right?
One of the things I think it's important that we talk about too is that we don't in these reports that we're going to be sending upstream, don't rehash old information. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless that old information is pertinent to this month's or this period's report.
Mm-hmm.
I used to love watching the show The West Wing, and
Mm-hmm.
and Martin Sheen's character, he was always famous for saying, "What's next?" Like, I'm the president of the United States. I've got 5 minutes to work on this problem.
It's
When
like,
I say what's next, we have to move on. So
right.
don't rehash old information to somebody who's high up on the food chain, because it's just a time thing. Austin raises a good point. We're all dealing with bigger things till the recall happens, but maybe if we were dealing with the bigger things, as problems don't get better with time, right? Bad news does not get better with time.
Mm-hmm.
If we take a small problem and we nip it in the bud, it never becomes a big problem.
Right.
So
Absolutely. And so let's say that you're VP of quality for a company. Don't feel like that you need to gather all this information and data yourself. Set it up in a hierarchy, right? Have your quality managers at the plant create their quality report. Then that information goes into your corporate report. And then at the corporate level, you pull in information from other departments there. So procurement and logistics and whatever it is that you want to measure, so that you're not, beating your head against the wall. Plus, that allows you then to make sure that things are aligned, right? So you want your corporate goals to be aligned with your plant goals. So if I'm focused on reducing complaints, right, to keep on this subject, I want to make sure that my plants are focused on reducing complaints. And there's no better way than doing that than aligning those reports, because your quality manager to the plant, when he or she is presenting that report to the leadership team at the plant, you're saying the same thing.
right, exactly. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say something.
No.
Another thing that we talk about too is that how do we present this information? Do we do it? I think we all agree that sending it in an email, it's not going to work. Do we schedule Zoom calls where people can be doing 1,000 things while they appear to be on a Zoom meeting? I could be working on my email right now. As long as I'm staring this general direction, you won't know if I'm typing emails or listening to you. So now that we're in a more normal, back to normal type of world, people are traveling again. They're, to your point, are conferences again. The CBs are back to holding auditor meetings again. Maybe it's a good idea to do these in person if it works. And then it was, well, what about the budget? Well, if we're worried about a budget, then we've got bigger issues, because we cannot put a price on food safety. So minimally, I think we do these meetings. There has to be faces together, whether they're on a screen or in person. But how the information is presented is as important as the information that you are presenting.
100%, right? So earlier I had talked about when you present to senior leadership, right, you have your high level quality report and then your data behind it. On that high level report, you want to make that information as visual as you can, right? You want green, yellow, red, right? We're doing great. I'm kind of worried, or holy crap, we got a big problem here. Trends, right? You want graphs. You want information, right? It's kind of like in a plant, right? If you've got a good pest control program, you're trending that data, right? And you're saying, right, I'm getting more mice activity on this side of the building. I need to up my controls in that area. Mm-hmm. It's the same with that report, right? So then you present this report to senior leadership, and you got your green, yellow, red, you got graphs, you've got trends, you've got control limits, whatever you need in that report. Now they're going to start asking you questions. They're going to go, hey, Brian, I see this line going up here. What's that mean? Let me talk about that. Right? Here's what that means. Right? And now you can have a conversation, and pictures stick in our brains. right? A spreadsheet full of information does not.
Yep, I agree. Ryan makes a good point about they used to have monthly scorecard meetings with all the key stakeholders, and it was nice to see the different sites collaborate. Here's another good takeaway from meetings like that. You begin to realize that you're not alone in your misery.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we're a company, we have 10 facilities across the US and Canada and or internationally, and we all get on a call together. And I realize that, well, my complaint numbers are going up. I think I suck. And then I talk to my facility in a different location, and they're having similar challenges. Well, I don't feel so bad anymore. And it's not an excuse, right? But it's, to Ryan's point, it's that sense of collaborating.
Yes.
Put your heads together, right? It's just like your internal audit team can't be one person or two people from two departments. You have to have multidisciplinary approaches to these things.
Yep, absolutely.
As many people involved as you can, as many facilities involved as you can.
Yep.
I would think the situation with Jif, I don't know how many Jif facilities there are. I'm sure there's more than one. Are they talking internally about, yeah, we've seen a similar issue, or we had this issue and this is what we did to eradicate? I hope they are.
Right. Well, part of this too, right, to follow up on his point, is be careful what you measure. Because if you put the wrong metric in place, you're going to get the wrong result. So for example, let's say that you just put in a simple measure for environmental monitoring, to keep on that subject, that says our goal is to have 0 hits every month. That's a terrible metric.
Yes.
Why? Because now you've incentivized everybody who's doing that testing to get a result of 0.
Right.
Oh, we didn't find anything. No, we're good.
Lie
right?
about it.
Right. So then all of a sudden you have somebody who's out in the plant, right? And they're spraying sanitizer on the spot they sample, or they're sampling, they're doing this, right? Or they're sampling areas they know that darn well they know they're clean, right? They're not looking because they want a result of 0, because that's what their bonus is going to be based on.
Yep.
Now you've completely fooled yourself.
I think to have a limit of Tim, garbage in, garbage out. You're right. I think to put a limit of 0 on a metric is setting yourself up for failure, and it's going to set yourself up for a situation where just ship it. It's okay. Just this one time, we'll be fine.
Yeah, we're okay. Right. I need my bonus.
That's right. I'm the CEO, and I've got to answer to 7, 10, 12 people on the board of directors who all have 10 million shares each of our company stock. And if this thing goes sideways, the chairman of the board is going to lose $37 million today, one day today. So I can't. I agree.
Yep. You have to understand motivations, right? So, and again, it's coming back to our theme, Joe, is data, but you have to be able to use that data and interpret that data. And to a point that was made here by Austin, tell the story around that data, right? Time and time again, I come back to plan, do, check, act, right? The basics in quality always apply. Here was our plan. Here's how we executed it. Here's the results we got. Weren't quite what we expected. Here's what we did to fix it and get it back on course. Or here's how we changed our original process to align with what we now know, right? Do that time and time and time again. That's going to get you where you need to go. So a little on the nuts and bolts side of things, so I'm sure people are thinking about this as well, is, okay, this is all great, and we're talking about this, abstractly. What type of stuff should I have in my quality report? And that's a highly subjective question by company, right? Because it's going to really, really vary, and you have to dig into that. Now, part of my advice on that then too is, once you decide, let's say that you're setting this up from scratch, right? You're a new company, or you just started and the information before was garbage. Be very careful about what you pick, because once you pick it, you have to leave it alone, right? So for example, let's say you have a key performance indicator for complaints. Complaints can be measured in all kinds of different ways. So if you say that you're going to measure complaints per million units, or complaints per million pounds, or complaints per shipment, or whatever it is, once you lock that in, don't change it.
Right.
And there's an interesting dynamic that will take place, because if you're making lots of little tiny things, the operation guys are going to want to measure complaints per piece, because the number is going to be smaller, right? Okay, fine. it doesn't really matter. It's still the same thing,
Right.
but you need to lock that in. And then once it's there, do not change it.
Yep. Something popped into my head, and it came to me when Tim typed in about garbage in, garbage out, and I've been doing SQF audits and BRC for a minute now, and so many places that I work with, and even on the consulting side of my business, I'll take on clients that say, "Oh, well, our bonus, my annual bonus is linked into the score of my audit." And I'm like, that is a terrible, I don't, you have to be careful what you say these days and on social media, but I will say this: that is a terrible, terrible thing to do to your employees. And any company that does that should change that today.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to incentivize your employees so that they get a 98 or they get an A, what if there's that one-off situation that happens? What if so now you're gonna encourage people to fabricate information. You're gonna encourage people to overlook evidence that may be compelling to a food safety issue. From a quality reporting standpoint, I think that is a terrible practice that companies have. I think it needs to. I think they need to stop immediately. I really do, and I feel pretty passionately about that.
Oh, 100%, right? So for me, a warning flag, if I'm at a company, doing an audit or something like this, and the only time I see the plant manager is at the opening and closing meeting, and at the closing meeting, he pops his head in the door and says, "What's our score?" Right? Ooh, bad sign.
Our purpose as quality and I call us quality and food safety nerds because we are a bunch of nerds because we get excited about science and we get excited about germs and bacteria and cool food safety systems, but we have an obligation. The obligation is to report the truth, because in reporting the truth and not being afraid to report the truth, we're going to save somebody from getting sick. And the numbers that the CDC are reporting are still to this day 1 in 6 Americans this year will come down with a foodborne illness. Now, I don't know how many people are on this call or following us today. I know for a fact there's more than 6. Okay. So that means that more than one of us is going to come down with some kind of a foodborne illness this year. So which one of you want to volunteer to be that? I don't want it. And I don't think Brian will.
I'm out too. Yeah, we're the hosts.
Portland or Tim or Renee or Austin, if anybody out there wants to, Mario, if anybody wants to volunteer to get sick this year to take it off of our plate, feel free. But we have an obligation to report quality metrics that are going to be read and acted upon.
Yep.
Without fear of it affecting my salary.
Yeah, absolutely right. So this goes back to the point I made earlier, right? Which is we got to stick our nose in a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of responsibility with that, right? We are the moral compass. We are the conscience. We are the little angel and devil on the shoulders of the senior management team, letting them know this is good. This is bad. I don't like this. Whoa, this is not the right direction, right? It's a rare thing that we get to do that, and it's a huge responsibility, right? If you're hiding skeletons in the closet at your plant just to get that 98, oh man, that's a huge moral failure.
During in the case of the PCA scandal, there were employees there who were involved who had the potential to be the whistleblower and didn't for fear of whatever. And I understand the fear of losing your job. I don't want to lose my job. But where does it end? Where does your moral compass take you? There are whistleblower laws that protect people. So enough of the soapbox. What I think we should, let's branch into what kinds of KPIs, Brian, should we be reporting? What's important? And I think we should touch on that.
Yeah, and again, right, so this is that context around every plan is different, and you need to look at these and figure out how to do this for you. So we have mentioned complaints, right? So what are your complaint rates? What are your categories? How do you break it down? What type of complaints do you measure? What groupings are you using? What's your reporting frequency? All this information, right? But you definitely need to report on complaints. One of the things that your quality report needs to focus on as much as you can is external data. What is the marketplace telling us? Right? What recalls are taking place in the market? What's happening in our space, right? So part of what I do on locals, and Renee had put this in here as well, is part of what we do in quality, right? Is you need to be looking outside of the company. So what are these type of things that we can measure for those type of activities? If we find out that the consumers are complaining because our beverage is clumpy, oh, right? Why? When did this start? What's going on? Why don't they like clumpy? And the better in quality you can understand those hot buttons of what it is that the consumer likes and doesn't like, the better you're going to be.
Absolutely.
So if I'm in charge of quality at a fast food restaurant, and I know that Joe's going to get pretty ticked off if his burger looks like crap and his onion rings are half empty and the shake looks like garbage, that's a critical measurement, right? And you need to act on those things, right? The consumer drives these things.
Absolutely.
Right first. Now, this right first is an interesting one, right? Because right first, there's a bazillion ways to calculate right first percentages. And there's going to be a lot of discussion back and forth if you don't have a right first calculation in place. But at a theoretical level, the best way to look at this, right, is I set out to make 1,000 cases of this product. Did I end up with 1,000 cases at the end of the day that was in spec and is going to make our customers happy?
Yep, absolutely.
Right? ATP results, right? Your environmental monitoring, two critical measures, right? What are the trends on those things? And what's really cool with some of these devices now that are out there for ATP, they have built-in software like crazy. Right? You can trend and slice and dice the data, all kinds of information. Again, though, taking that data and then translating it into that simple report for senior management.
Yep. What about? I don't think we can rely exclusively, and I'll say this as being in the business, I don't think we can rely exclusively on our third-party audit results. They're a snapshot in time. They're 2.5 days out of 365. So we have to rely on our own trustworthiness, our own moral compass to look at our internal information. Mm-hmm. and use your powers for good, as they say, right? And it's interesting that Kimberly posted that in her time as a regulator, she's seen the same. So thank you, Kimberly, for justifying and validating what I've said. Is that she's seen it on the retail level, that grocery store owners are losing bonus because it's just a bad way to approach it. But and even within a multi-site organization, there can be different KPIs for each facility. Maybe you've got 4 facilities that make bread. You're a bread bakery, okay? But the KPIs for plant A are probably going to be a little different than the KPIs for plant B, simply because of different equipment, different environmental, whatever the case be. So don't get sucked into we all have to have the same set of KPIs, because that may not always work either.
And here's the absolutely amazing thing, is that you can have 2 plants that are essentially identical, right? Same equipment, same footprint, same products and things like that. They will get different results. Yeah. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. Because I think people forget that it's the employees who make the product, right? Not the equipment, right? And a lot of times at senior management, they forget that.
So let me ask you this. How often do you think quality reports should be provided to the SLT?
Monthly.
Yep, I agree. I think anything less than monthly is not meaningful, because trends develop quickly. I think anything more than monthly is just overkill, simply because they won't have the time to read it. Right. But I think monthly, good. So that's we're right there, 2 minds sharing the same.
Simpatico, yes, absolutely.
Simpatico. No, I think monthly is, and I mean, not only does that satisfy the GFSI requirements, and not to diminish the importance of good GFSI compliance, but for the reality of it, I think monthly is a great time frame.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as you're thinking about this report too, Joe, is what are other departments doing, right? So does procurement have a report, right? So orders on time, damage at delivery, incorrect orders, out of compliance with specification at receipt, these type of things. If they don't have a report, is that something that you can collaborate with procurement and roll that into your report?
Right.
In the past, we had a fantastic program where quality and procurement got together and we created a metric for our suppliers. And there was 30 points, and in quality, I got to divide that up on the things I was worried about. So recalls, audit score, compliance to spec, et cetera. Procurement had another 30 points. And then they listed out the things they were worried about. So things I just talked about, right? So order fill rate, orders on time, damage at receipt, et cetera. Then once a quarter, my procurement person in quality and the procurement person responsible for that account would get together with the key suppliers, and we'd bring them to corporate and we would graph it out and we would show them how they were performing. And so it was green, yellow, red. Here a trend here. And green was quality's happy, procurement's happy. You're doing a great job supplying us. Thank you. You're an important partner with us. And if more business comes up, it's coming your way. Yellow was one of those two departments wasn't very happy. And then we would explain why we weren't happy. And red, right? We were both ticked off. And I would sit in on these meetings every now and then. And every single time, if there was an issue, the person that came in from that company, Joe, to talk about that issue had no idea. They had no idea. It wasn't getting to them. But they were in a position where they could get things done in the company, right? They were on the sales team or things like that, responsible, to your point, for revenue. So I was able to indirectly influence those metrics and improve the quality of the materials coming into the plants. I was happy. Procurement was happy. It was a win-win, right? So how can you partner with other groups in the organization to get to this information?
Yeah. Cortland raised a good comment here that complaints about off taste and flavor and not enough French fries in my box, that's aesthetics. Okay. And I agree, because everybody's got different flavors and different taste buds. But we're all familiar with the broken windows theory. Okay. If you stop problems when they're small problems, they don't grow to become systemic things. Okay. So this burger joint now gets into the routine of only half filling my chocolate shake cup or only half filling my French fry cup because they're just lazy. Okay.
Well, they're making money.
Oh, they're saving money.
Yeah.
I'm probably lazy. So now that translates into, we'll clean the grill tomorrow, and I'll clean the shake machine tomorrow morning rather than tonight as scheduled because I'm lazy. So I think if we take small problems and we nip them in the bud, we prevent the greater problems from taking root.
Right. And I would push back on this a little bit. And this is going to be a topic for an upcoming chat, is sensory analysis and setting up those attributes associated with your product. Companies tend to navel gaze way too much, right? They look internally to what the product should be. That's a bunch of crap. The consumer decides what the product should be. And the more you understand that, the better your quality is going to be. Mm-hmm. If I had $1 for every time I went to a product cutting and the CEO declared whether the product was good or not, yeah. What are you talking about? I don't care. You're the CEO. You're not the consumer. I'm not selling to CEOs.
Right.
And a lot of time companies get really, really tied up internally with that. And they look at things very technically. Oh, here's the rheology and here's the pH and these type of things. I've never had a customer send me a complaint and say, hey, I bought this product and the pH was a little high.
Yep.
Never.
Yep.
Right. They say this product tastes like crap.
I think so. In our last few minutes, I think we need to address Roxana's question about what's the best way to keep employee engagement. And that's a great question. And I know, Brian, you hear it almost every day. I hear it almost every day. You can only throw just so much money at a problem. Okay. And one of the things that we talk about when we do our food defense training courses or our internal auditor courses, HACCP courses, anything that requires assembling a team. How do you keep people motivated? when they're working long shift hours, when they, if they're working whatever 7 to 3, and at 3 o'clock they have to leave because they've got to pick up their kids at school, or they've got a soccer game to go to, or a dental appointment, anything along. How do we get people to want to care about food safety, to care about quality reporting?
Yeah. Here's my short answer on that. Food safety is personal, right? So one of the things I would do at plants, if I was doing presentations and talking with teams at plants about food safety, is if you can't pull any product off this line during your shift at any given time, take that home and feed it to your grandchildren. I want to know.
Yeah. And I think everybody knows somebody, and Brian, you and I both know somebody without names. I think you know who I'm referring to, that's had family members suffer devastating illnesses from food poisoning and food safety outbreaks. It has to be personal. It has to be personal. There's no question.
So that's my quick advice. Hopefully that's helpful, Roxana. And that gets to the gut of it, right? And even when I say that, Joe, I feel that internally, right? And that's why we do what we do, right? As I've said before, there's easier ways to make money than what we do. We do it because we care, right? And that's why we do this food safety chat, right? And that's why we share this Friday with you, and hopefully help to improve things, right? So that we can give these things to our grandchildren. We have infant formula to feed our babies and these type of things. So once again, right, thank you for joining us. And thank you to my sponsor, EAS Consulting, for allowing us to have this presentation and talk with you. And the fact that you're here for this hour on a Friday and joining us for these discussions and broadening your food safety knowledge, and hopefully we're allowing you to kind of think about things from a new perspective. I really appreciate that. I know Joe does too. So thanks again for joining us. And we will see you back here next Friday at the same time. So 10 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Mountain Time where I am, and we'll have this next food safety chat. And please, right, our emails are here. Reach out to us, right? We want to help.
Absolutely.
And if you have suggestions for topics, please fire us a note and let us know what you would like to know more about. And in this chat too was the locals group. So join the locals group. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, right? And I can help keep you updated on what's going on in food safety. So always an awesome conversation. Time flies, Joe. And so thanks to Tim for his reminder here that people got to get to meetings. So we appreciate this hour with you, and we will see you back here next week. Everybody have a fantastic weekend.
Have a great week.
Hope you have a good one too, Joe.
Thank you, Brian. You too.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.